Hey y'all, it's Jenifer Duguay with Remax Space Center, and I am here today to introduce y'all to RedFish Inspections and the owner Will Misegades, and also his trusted sidekick Cheyenne Sprouse.
Hey there, guys.
Hey guys, how are y'all doing?
Oh, we're good. How are you?
I'm good. So have y'all been, kind of steady, or?
We've been steady. It's been good, and we're blessed with what we have. It's obviously not as much as what we normally would have, but we're still able to. My blessing is I've been able to keep all of my staff, and
that is awesome.
And we've actually added a couple of new inspectors, so we've been training them and getting them ready.
Yeah, that's great. So, so that's good that you've, stayed, pretty busy. I'm curious though, since we've had the stay-at-home order, how many new inspections have you scheduled since? So basically that would have been what, March, the last week of March?
So let's see, since the last week of March, we're about at 60 inspections. So it's a good size.
And what would you normally be at?
Probably about 90.
Okay, so that's not so bad.
It's not so bad. Yeah, we've gone down about 30%.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good. Do you feel that just let's say in the last week and a half or so that maybe there's been a little bit of a dip, or do you feel
quite the opposite?
Oh, that's great.
So
I want to hear. And that's the message that I want to put out, y'all, is that a lot of times people are, thinking, oh my gosh, this is a horrible time to buy a home. And everybody knows, and every millionaire that's out there that has made their money from real estate will tell you the best time to buy a home is during a economic crisis.
Yeah.
And it's not even a scary time. Look at the interest rates are low.
They're amazing right now.
Yeah, so we're still, moving, but we do have, we've actually all have implemented measures due to COVID-19. And, speaking of which, I know you have. So do you want to maybe explain to everyone, that's out there watching what preventative measures you put in place and what measures you plan to continue, to keep in place?
Yes. So all of our inspectors, they follow the CDC guidelines. So that we started with that. And so the guidelines is actually, it's like a 3 or 4 page with pictures. And so it's pretty easy to follow and understand. But then I've added on top a couple more things that I wanted RedFish to do. And so, for example, some of the things that we do is we wear gloves inside properties. We'll wear masks, face masks. And then we wipe down everything that we touch. But then on top of that, before we enter every house, each inspector takes their temperature, and we document that. And that's just it's to track basically the progress, just in case something happens, and we can go back to the day that, all right, temperature has changed.
Right.
And it's not as much of a liability thing as it's more of a communication thing. And I know that, we're in the business of communicating, and we want to reassure sellers, especially if the house is occupied, as much as we can. And sometimes the sellers stay, and so they get to see our teams at work, and they see them, all wearing face masks and gloves. We wear indoor shoes as well that we don't wear outside. Clean our equipment before and after. So we're trying to take as many measures as possible to just reassure everybody.
And are any of those measures, here to stick around as far as, a regular practice?
So I think I'm going to stick around with cleaning the equipment on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the measures that we've always had was those indoor shoes. So that was more out of respect for the sellers that we don't wear. So we wear Crocs on the inside instead of just socks, because socks we can slip and slide, and I don't want my inspectors to get hurt. And so we wear Crocs on the inside, and that's been our MO for the last 10 years almost now. And we keep the place as clean as possible. So we'll sweep behind us. We try to wipe down any surfaces in showers so that when the sellers come back, they don't see, a bunch of watermarks, things like that.
Right, right. Well, that makes complete sense. You definitely don't want anyone climbing up a ladder and hurting themselves on someone else's property, especially.
Exactly. Some of the other things, I kind of like the idea of taking the temperature and just keeping that. It's basically so our software allows us to take a ton of pictures that don't necessarily go in the report. And so that can be, so my inspectors just take a temperature with a laser thermometer on their forehead, and that stays in that particular inspection, just doesn't go in the report in itself, in the PDF report.
But, interesting enough, I always, I feel that, I have always been a believer that if you don't feel good, stay home, because I don't want to get sick.
Mhm.
One of the things that they have mentioned, is people with autoimmune diseases. And I'm one of those people. But it's not just about during this time with the coronavirus, it's any time, So I would appreciate if, companies or places of business that I do business with did, really just keep track and, take their employees' temperatures. Because if someone has a fever or a cold, they don't need to be working anyway.
Exactly.
And that's something that should have just stayed around for a long time. But I also feel that, the upper management really needs to, change their ways of thinking instead of making people feel guilty, or maybe in some sense feel, employees feel like they're being treated as if they're lying.
Yeah.
And that's been a difficult thing too, from what I've heard. So I've, heard pushback from both sides, but I think it's still in the best interest to, protect your customers and your
So my goal is to protect my staff, and if my staff is protected and trusts me, then they will offer the best service possible to the customer. And so, treat your people right, and the people will treat the clients right. And that's been my philosophy from the very beginning. The other thing that we've adopted, and that's been a thing for years now, is half of our staff actually works from home, and that's been like that for the longest time.
Mhm.
And so now I'm taunting the idea of, well, how can we do more of this so that my staff can actually have more family time? Do we really need to come into the office every single day and stay in the office those 8 hours a day? Or can we do more of a part-time, still work from home, and then work in the office? Now, some of us might prefer working in the office and getting away from all the kids, but that can be an option as well for the staff, for all my people. And that's something, I'm very family oriented.
I
And
love that, by the way. I think because that is so important. And I think right now, I have talked to so many friends and clients, and peers who, have flat out told me, you know what, I was really stressed out, but I am really, just excited, that I'm really getting to know my kids again and bonding with them. And I think for so long, so many people have put work first. And, the fact like money, money, money is always in their head.
Yeah.
And they're not really thinking about these important times and these years that you will never get back. So I love that you encourage your employees, to spend time with their families. That's just a good, those are values. And I think, that's sending a message out there. Again, that's just a testimony to your character, your character. So I love that. And speaking of that, I know your story, but would you mind telling everyone else and how you got started and maybe sharing a little bit about yourself?
Sure. How far back do you want me to go?
Well,
on.
how you got started. I know that your parents were missionaries and y'all started to build, log cabins. So you really got to learn the process at a fairly young age, correct?
Yes, that's right. So when I was about 15, so I was born and raised in France. My parents, like you said, are missionaries there. They're still there. They've been there, I think, about 45 years now. And my dad had the very first full-time Christian rock band in France.
Oh, how cool.
So I got to, grow up in the showbiz, Christian showbiz, but kind of travel all over France, all over Europe in the vans with the groups. So I've had a really blessed life growing up with very loving parents. And then, as they decided to move out of that industry, they wanted to go into kind of a self-supported mission. And so they decided to build a tourist complex in the central part of France, which is basically it's 8 log cabins that can house up to 100 people. So it's not a small.
Oh, wow, that's large.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we built everything ourselves. So from ground on up, we did 100% ourselves. And but I learned it the way that my dad taught me, which is, so his name is Bob, so we call it the Bob way.
The Bob way, okay. Bob way. I love it.
And I wanted to learn how to build log houses the right way. And so I moved to Finland and lived there for 4 years. And I was on the job site, did that for a couple of years, and then became the export manager for this company that manufactured log houses. And and so I traveled the world again as a young 23-year-old guy that, had a lot of responsibility all of a sudden. And then I met my wife over here, and I decided that it was time for me to either quit that job or get fired, or but I was going to move to the States essentially. Right. So that's how I got to the States.
And I'm sure she's really glad that you made that decision.
So the goal was to marry her and take her back to Finland.
Oh,
so that was the plan with my boss.
You can't do that with American girls.
Well, I figured that out. Yeah, she does not do cold.
Do cold, yeah. Well, that's the other part. We're Southerners. Mm-hmm. Southern women don't do cold. Most Southern men either. They don't do cold. So yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
So I moved to the States about 14 years ago, and I was able to do my job as an export manager because all my clients were business partners all over the world. So it didn't matter where I lived. So I was, again, blessed with having a boss who allowed me to move to a different country with no supervision whatsoever. Again, the goal was to bring her back to Finland. That didn't happen. But then, unfortunately, 2008 hit us.
Right. Yes.
And right there, I lost all of our partners within a day, pretty much. So I was in charge of 15 countries, and one by one, they called me and they said, "We're done. We can't do it anymore." So my boss put me at that point on straight commission, and I thought, well, if I'm going to be put on straight commission, might as well be my own boss.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that was about the time that we bought our first house with my wife. And the guy who did my inspection, I thought did a great job. And I asked him if he'd take me under his wing. And he said no. And I said, why? And he said, because I would be training my competition. So now I had a challenge. I was going to become his competition no matter what. And either I was going to do it with his help or not. So it ended up being not with his help. But that's how I ultimately got into the industry 10 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. You've got a lot of experience, firsthand experience.
Yes. Yeah. I've done a lot of construction. I've done a lot of training of other companies on how to build our houses. And then, I went into a friend's house on a final phase inspection at the time, and I had zero training in home inspections. And so having been a builder for quite some time, I had no idea what I was looking at. Because the trained inspector is looking at different things than what the builder is looking at, and there's a pattern, there's a way to do inspections, and so it's after I got that training that everything kind of clicked, and ultimately made me a better builder, because I knew things the right way instead of doing it the Bob way.
Right. And so that ultimately led you to decide to go get your inspector's license, or.
Yep, I took my license. So I did all the class. I was the stay-at-home dad for our first 2.5 kids. And during that time, I did.
You have 4 kids, y'all. So just FYI.
I'm sorry?
I was letting everyone know you have 4 kids, FYI.
Yeah. So for the first 2 kids, I was the full-time stay-at-home dad and did all the training, got my license, started the business extremely slowly. I had no clue how to do anything about business. So I was a construction manager, major export manager. I could do a little bit of sales, but that was not what I was good at, or even my desire. And so I did 12 inspections my first year.
Oh, wow.
Very much.
Huge,
No.
huge number.
And did 55 the second year. So
That's awesome.
I went up a little bit, but I didn't know anything about marketing or talking to anybody. I mean, I just that in the home inspection school, we're taught how to be a good inspector. We're not taught how to run a business. And so it wasn't until I started going and joining different mastermind groups that my mindset changed. And I went from being a technician to actually being able to run a business and have staff and being able to go on vacation and still have income and be able to offer that to my employees and offer different benefits and just able to grow something that has meaning to me. And my whole goal in life is to help people. And it seems so cliche, but that really what it is about. And it's just helping people who need it the most.
And it does sound cliche, but I'm the same way. I mean, I was just born, God put a giving heart in me, and, I am severely empathetic to others. So I've always been the one that wants to help people. So I can relate to that.
It's been interesting because my background being in a European country that's socialistic, but then now living in a capitalistic world, trying to mix the two together is kind of it's been an interesting challenge. Mm-hmm. And so I remember before going on vacation earlier this year, I told my director of operations, what can we do? What do we need to do to offer 5 weeks paid vacation to our employees, everybody? And like, okay, he looked at me and he goes, I said, work on it. Let's see what needs to happen in order to do that. What do we need to do to offer healthcare benefits? What do as a small business, it really is hard to offer so many benefits, and without being a price gouger on the home inspection side of things as well. So how can we do? What do we need to do as a business to really take care of our people to the best of our abilities? So that's my goal in life, is to take care of my staff, who will then take care of everybody else.
Well, and that's just it. People do really, need to think about the fact that it's so important, and it's key to keeping your employees, by keeping them happy. When you first, when we're out there, we're trying to, create, friendships, but within, business employees, there is, you want to be friends, but you do have to have some sort of a guideline. But it is important to, you want them to trust you, right? Like everybody wants to earn their trust and their loyalty, because once you have their trust and their loyalty, you have employees for life. And the same applies to your clients, right? To any relationships that you develop within, whether it's with home builders, with home buyers, realtors in the industry, and maybe even peers that work out in other areas that may refer to you. It's always about building a trusting relationship to build those lifelong, you've got to have that loyalty, that lifelong loyalty, right?
Absolutely. Cheyenne is a perfect example of, how long have you been with us now?
5+ 5 in January.
All right. And how long did it take me to finally hire you?
I've loved Will for about 2 years. He was doing his single man operation kind of thing, and he was looking into mastermind groups. We actually shared a mutual realtor in buying our houses. And through the course of that, bless her heart, I had to show us 52 houses in a week. And our inspector was in and out of our house in about an hour. And I thought, okay, this is awesome. And just followed Will as he was growing his business and started bugging him. And eventually he brought me on the team. And it's been awesome.
Well, Will, you are so blessed that God brought, Cheyenne to you.
Absolutely.
She does an amazing job with her marketing skills. I absolutely love her. And I really, I've known her for a couple of years, but, Cheyenne, I think you and I really just started to really kind of bond the last, probably since, maybe January.
I
really
know.
know each other, but and I'm kind of guilty of being one of those people that I analyze everything, including people. Sometimes I just sit back and kind of watch people and see who they are. You know, you know, sometimes you have a guard up just because you've been burned, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
And so but I do see how genuine you are and what a gift that you have, you know, not just being able to, you know, build relationships, but you really are, you know, very good at marketing, and you do a lot within the real estate community, and not just with our own office, but with everyone in the area.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's one of the goals is I just want, even before COVID-19, we always wanted to remind people that we're here to help. You know, Will is really big on training and educating people, either in the same industry that we're in with inspections or just in general. And so I've spent a lot of time just reminding them, hey, if it's something that I can serve and help with, let me know. Please never hesitate to ask. And if it's something that I don't have the ability or the resources for, let me know, because I'm going to find somebody that can help you. So I really like to be out there kind of making the connections with people, because it's just one big web of people, and kind of like what you're doing here with keeping your community connected and encouraged. It's something that we hope to just keep implementing and promoting.
Yes. I mean, you know, I started this because I had, you know, I just couldn't sit back and do nothing. I had to figure out something to help, you know, local business owners. And, you know, growing up in the area, so many of my friends, you know, own businesses, you know, between Pearland, Friendswood, Alvin, Manville, you know, League City, Clear Lake, general area. And I knew that I had to do something. And I had this platform. So I figured, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I don't know anything about live streaming. I don't know anything about video editing or anything, but you know what? I finally, my analytical brain decided to just shut up for a minute and let me step out of my comfort zone so I can do this. So I really,
and look how good it looks, man. It's awesome.
Thank you.
And all. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. But it's more about, you know, bringing business owners like you and, you know, representatives of the companies to come in and bring brand awareness. So, because a lot of people may not know you, and, you know, this is your opportunity to, you know, introduce yourselves and let people. And I find that right now, you know, with all of the research that I was doing, you know, for the last year, about, you know, reaching different generations, you know, I think at the end of the day, the general consensus is people want to know you. I think we're all guilty of, when we're going to go do business with somebody, we tend to creep. And if some of you don't know what creeping is, it means you just kind of go onto all of the social media, you check everyone out and kind of get a general idea of who they are. But when there's video, you are, you know, you're able to relay your personality, and people really like that. So, and again, you know, both of you are very genuine people. You know, Cheyenne, you have connected a lot of real estate agents and created friendships amongst agents.
I have, yes.
Just, you know, from doing the different events that you have. I really, you know, I really wanted to attend the one where you were decorating cups. I hope you do that again.
We do. Hopefully soon. Hopefully July.
But, you know, and, you know, so working together, you know, Will, you had mentioned that you were trying to be an inspector. You were a one-man show, and then understood that you needed to grow, but you needed to add people to take care of the things that you're maybe not the greatest at, like you said, you're not in marketing. Yep. And, you know, that's, you know, where I think a lot of people really should kind of humble themselves, because we can't do it all.
No.
And you can't, you know, burn yourself so thin to where, you know, you know, are not doing the best job possible because you're trying all these different, you know, things. Let somebody else help you who's, you know, good at what they do.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's been kind of fun because we've hired inspectors that have come out of inspection school, and in their minds, you know, everybody wants to start their own business and be successful.
Yes.
And then for one reason or another, maybe they want to just inspect and not have to do the other. And so a couple of these guys now will tell me, I don't envy your job. I don't want to have to go out and do happy hours. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't want to do crawl spaces. So we'll just compliment each other.
Right. Yes. So as far as marketing goes, Cheyenne, what is there anything new in the marketing world that you've been playing with and maybe started implementing, in light of COVID-19 or?
So honestly, we've done a lot of Zoom. We've taught classes on Zoom. Just the technology that's been kind of having to jump out there because of the virus. You're having to teach things a lot faster, implement them faster. So a lot of the classes that we teach have to do with your analytics, how to put digital backgrounds and all behind you, how to best get your voice and your message out there. Text message. We weren't huge on text campaigns before now. I did a lot of emailing, and most of my stuff was face to face. And I miss people, and I miss being able to go and hug them and do happy hours and all of that. But texting, in our text, we're not trying to go out there and ask for business. What we're saying is we want to encourage you. So our text campaigns have just been inspirational quotes or things that will take them to links to keep their kids entertained during COVID, or messages from HAR and NAR, just to be a resource. So those are some new things that I'm kind of scouring the internet for. I've had some TikTok challenges come my way.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to start on some of those.
And I'm going to get you out there. We're going to collaborate on something because I am definitely helping other realtors that I have tagged. And then, of course, affiliates in the real estate business.
Yes, I love it. I love your one you did with Lindsay Warrington with Old Republic.
Yes. I really am trying to get people, to step out of their comfort zone. So I've kind of chosen, easy things that I know people can do. And a lot of the agents have responded back and just said they're so glad that I challenged them to do that because it did get them to step out of their comfort zone. And they have realized, like Katie Bittner, she was like, oh my gosh, I have to admit, I had so much fun.
Yeah.
So, and I think people are realizing that. And sometimes it's a little easier. Like I said, I will do a collaboration with anyone, any guest on here or any of you watching need help or something. It's easier sometimes just to maybe do it with somebody. So I'm happy to collaborate with you on that now that I've learned how to do all of the editing in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But not using the on TikTok either. It's a separate program that I'm doing. So, but anyways, to get back to the inspections, y'all are doing, home buyer inspections.
Yes.
And you have a team of people. So how many people are typically out at the, during the inspection? How many inspectors do you typically have?
It will depend on the size of the house, really.
Okay.
But usually up to 5,000 square feet, we're going to send 2 people. And that's, from 400 square foot apartment all the way to 5,000 square feet. And the idea is we want to be in and out of the house within about 2.5 hours, no matter the size of the house. And that's really more to prevent the inconvenience to the sellers who have to, or they feel like they have to leave the property. And so they get to come back home faster.
Yes.
And so it really is all about service. So how can I improve the service without losing the quality? And the idea came up with doing the teams. And so multiple people, it goes typically 2 times faster. We're in and out. The reports are done on site. We do a bunch of other types of inspections. But also there's a safety issue that comes with it. If someone falls off a roof, well, we know that the partner is going to be there and can call 911, can be there to help. Unfortunately, I know multiple people who've fallen off roofs, broken bones, or even died, and it's not something that I wish on anybody. And so that team approach is also a safety factor for my staff.
It also allows us the opportunity just to plug in some other tools and services, because we do have that extra person on site. We can bring in things from roofing companies to plumbing companies, just tools that we plug into that inspection report so that the buyer gets a really thorough report and understands the status of the home.
Right. And so when you're doing the inspection report, you have, your general, structural and mechanical, but you do a thorough check on the HVAC systems, the electrical, the plumbing, and you also offer thermal imaging. So would you explain the thermal imaging to maybe some people who are not familiar with that?
Sure. In simple, everything emits infrared. And so what this camera does is it captures the infrared and then translates it into an image. And so this camera allows us to see things, see different thermal patterns. And so we don't quite see through walls because it's not an X-ray machine. It's just a machine that will see different temperatures. But the cameras are so sensitive that we can see the studs behind the drywall. We can see the nails or the screws that are holding the drywall to the studs. We can see hot wires inside a wall, like if it was about to be a short or something, we can see that wire. We can see missing insulation and properly installed insulation. And more importantly, we can see water leak inside walls and ceilings that we would not see with the naked eye. And so this allows us to do a non-destructive test, essentially, that allows the buyers to know what's going on, but also the sellers that now know, okay, I have a leak under my second floor bathtub, and I know exactly where it is, so I don't have to cut a huge hole in the ceiling or find an access to the tub. I know where to cut. So that's the benefit for both parties, essentially.
Right. And so with that, that's part of your package, correct?
Yes. Yep. So instead of doing just under the sinks, we've been including the full home scan for the last 8 years now, to where it comes with every single home inspection. And the idea is to offer as much as we can, the best quality service possible, and that's still affordable.
And I know those cameras are not cheap.
No, they're not. If you start buying multiple.
Yes, as I was, when I right before I was, purchased my well, now they have 5D cameras, but when I was researching, I saw those prices and I thought, oh wow, had no idea they were that much. But I also, so you have the home inspections for buyers that are buying a new home. You also have new home construction inspections that you break out into 3 different phases.
Correct.
And that's important. So if anyone's, building a home, you can have, RedFish out there and they're going to come out and inspect from the ground up. So once the foundation is laid, you're going to go out there and inspect that. So maybe you want to walk them through the process of that.
Sure. So the 3-phase inspection is really important, mainly because people have the misconception that because it's a new construction, it's going to be built well because the city inspector is there to inspect it. Well, the city inspector comes there to typically look at 1 or 2 items and will be there for about 2-3 minutes, maybe 10 max, versus us who will be there from anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the size of the house and the phase. But so with the pre-pour inspection, for example, we would come in before the concrete's actually placed to make sure that everything is as it should be. If there are plans on site, we can compare the plans to what's actually in the ground, and we will typically find deficiencies. So those are going to be a little bit faster inspections because the pre-pour is right. There's not much there.
Right.
But you want your foundation to be done right. So if your foundation's not good, then it's just not going to get any better. And then,
real quick, I'm going to interrupt you just because I think a lot of people are under the, they don't understand how, with new builders, the construction of them, it doesn't matter if you're, working with an entry level build or a luxury home builder. Oftentimes they have the same contractors.
correct.
So there can be, items that are easily missed. It has nothing to do with the price of the home. It's the contractor. So it is important to have, a third party inspector out there who is going to protect you and look out for your interests. You're the one that's going to own the home.
Absolutely.
It's so easy. Oh, well, yeah, of course, contractors, and builders, rather you trust them, but, you want to do a good job and you want a good job. And having a third-party inspector is highly recommended.
And I'm of the belief that trust but verify.
Right.
And so, and we're not there to bug anybody. We're not there to bug builders or anything like that. We're just there when we write our reports. Ultimately, when the builder fixes what we find, it makes the home safer, and so that reduces the builder's liability. So we're really not there to bug anybody. Just try to make that home as safe as possible.
And it's a checks and balances system for them going forward. You know, they may not know as much about their teams or their crews that are out there. Like Will said, when it comes to a new home inspection, you think that, or a new home build, that it would be perfect. And what didn't occur to me until, you know, I started working for him is it's multiple crews of people that are working on this home. So, you know, with the thermal scan, if you have your insulation guys come out and they're putting insulation in the home and they run out and they have to order it, in the meantime, you've got your drywall guys that come through. Well, their one job is to put up drywall, and all of a sudden you have an entire wall without insulation behind it. So that's one of the things with our thermal scan that we just try to help, you know, see if it's there and if it's something that they can address or fix or at least be aware of it.
You know, it's interesting you say that. So when they start framing, do y'all use the thermal imaging at that point?
No, we'll use the thermal imaging once the house is complete. And the main reason is because you do need to have a temperature differential between the inside and the outside in order to get that thermal
image
reading within the walls. And so before doing it, we could probably do it, but that we would need a sensitive camera and adjust it really well. So I'm a level 2 thermographer. You have multiple levels. And it's not needed for the home inspection side of things. I do it because we utilize that camera on roof scans, commercial roof scans and electrical panel scans. Like I went to Hawaii I was called to do 50 panel electrical panels in Hawaii. And it was a really fun deal because I got to take my wife with me.
Yeah, how awesome.
But so I train all of my inspectors on how to use it, and they take online classes, but they're not going to be, they won't be the thermographer that is needed, or that's not the right way to say it, but they don't need to be the specialist in thermography.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so we'll just do it on the final phase of the house, where it's a lot easier to control the environment. So that's the key word, is controlling the environment.
Right. Well, that makes complete sense. Yes. And then you also have so after they do the final walkthrough, you know, that's when everyone walks through in the builder specs. So really, you're also really doing the builder a favor, because the chances of them having, you know, more repairs to do after, you know, the buyer's already moved in is going to be a lot lower. So that's going to be a good thing, I would think. But you also offer a program, and it's an 11-month inspection?
Correct. So yeah, it would be the home warranty inspection. So right before the builder's warranty expires, we come in, we do a full-blown home inspection all over again with thermal scan, with everything, and write up the report again for the homeowner to give to the builder. And the builder now has a checklist of things to fix. So some of the things we'll write up, the builder will not fix. Because of the fine print that they have in their contracts, like some hairline cracks in the walls, if they're not, you know, more than 1/4 of an inch, they won't fix it. I speak of experience because I built a house and that's what happened.
Welcome to Texas.
Yeah. So it just depends on the contract that you have. But the big ticket items, the builder will come in and will fix and make sure that everything is done right. Ultimately, because it's their name, and so they don't want to do a poor product, and they will fix things that need to be fixed.
Right, reputation is everything, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, and you know, one of the things that I have been recommending to my clients who are considering, you know, selling their home. And when I sit down and meet with them for the, you know, pre-listing, I am urging them to go ahead and do a pre-listing inspection. And, you know, I recommend it because I rather, you know, I always tell them, look, you just don't want any surprises.
Correct.
Go ahead and have an inspection done. This way you can take care of things, and you're going to use it to your advantage when negotiations start. You know, and what I've also found, and I find this interesting, is if you have an inspection report, a lot of times buyers are like, well, they just had an inspection report. Why even waste time? You know, and then they'll even forego a option period.
Wow.
That's pretty awesome. So there's definitely, you know, a lot of bonuses to having an inspection prior to going live on the market. But tell us a little bit about the pre-listing inspection that you offer, because I understand there's a new platform for us.
Sure. There's a platform called inspectedhouses.com. And it's a really cool platform. It was designed for home inspectors to promote the pre-list inspection. And it was made by a couple of home inspector friends of mine. And they launched it about a couple years ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing is you can type in a property address there, and then you'll see if there's a report on it. And so there are different levels where somebody else could buy the inspection report, and the money doesn't come to the home inspector. We've already been paid once. So the money actually goes to the homeowner.
Interesting. Okay.
It's a pretty cool little service. But the coolest thing for the agents is that it gives you leads. So one of the frustrating parts of like Zillow, who essentially gets the leads from you and then resells it to you, well, this program would actually give you the leads. So every time a potential buyer would click on that link or answer by text message, it gives you instantly like a background check on that client or that potential buyer. And so it's kind of scary because I typed in my phone number to get information, and it gave where I lived, the age I was. I forget if it gave how much money I was making, but it did a pretty thorough background check. And so right there, it tells you if it's a really good potential buyer or not. Is that person serious or not? But more importantly, especially with crazy things happening to agents going to vacant properties and things happen to them.
Yes.
Now you know ahead of time what the person looks like and what their background is. So you've got that safety measure that's put in place. And all of that through this program of just the home inspectors coming in, doing a pre-listing inspection, and that report is uploaded onto this website, and then everybody else who clicks on it pretty much gets leads. So the listing agent gets the leads and also knows if the potential buyer is serious and what kind of background they have.
And realtors, y'all, this is a great platform, again, to advertise your listings. But not only that, but from a buyer's perspective, they're really going to think, wow, these owners, or sellers must really take care of their home. They were willing to do, an inspection prior to anything else, because most people in the back of their mind are hoping that, an inspector may miss something, right? Again, face it up front.
It makes the transaction very transparent. Like you said, the sellers can address the things that they do want to address, or they can try to do some kind of concession agreement between them and the buyer. But it just for our agents, it makes it on a marketing level more national, because you are able to have more resources to promote that home and let more eyes be on that property than just locally. And, like in our market, Houston is huge on relocation between the oil field industry and, doctors and corporate America. We have a lot of people that are coming into the Houston area from other markets. They're able to see that home on a more thorough scale than just, some photos on horror.
Right. And I think it's great. And I really think that being that it's a national platform, it's really going to take off. Again, it's about, bringing the awareness and creating the exposure. So, again, this is a great place for y'all to do that. I love that idea, again, since that was something that I was already really urging my clients to do. But again, and I can't think of the term off the top of my head, but, whenever you, everyone is playing poker and what do they call it? The person.
Oh, their poker face.
Well, no, the person that is basically who's that? Is it the Percy at the table? I think there's a name for it. Anyways, if you can't decide who that person is, then most likely it's you. The point being is you want to be in charge. You want to hold the upper hand when it comes to negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
The way to do that is really by having an inspection prior to, the inspection, going on the market. And even, some buyers or some homeowners rather will ask me, well, we don't have the funds. What if it's something that we can't do? And I said, well, at least if we're aware of it, we can, offer an incentive. Again, like you said, transparency is everything. And more often than not, clients are getting more money for their home than they probably would have otherwise. Because I know a lot of agents out there, they tell their buyers, hey, yeah, we'll go ahead. It's a multiple offer situation. Don't worry. We have negotiations. We have a second phase of negotiations with inspections. We'll get them down, and that's not always going to be the case, So, I mean, it can happen, but this is one of the reasons why I just feel that it's important to go ahead and hit it up front. The other thing that I want to bring up is I, definitely try to arm my homeowners, especially new homeowners or people that are new to Texas. A lot of people, even who have owned homes for many years, have told me they didn't know a lot of these tips that I provide them as far as regular maintenance on their homes. And some of the things that I always recommend is, if they don't have a sprinkler system in their home, maybe get one, or at the very least, get a soaker hose to put around the perimeter of their property just to help maintain their foundation. And then I just put, talk about, there's a product that you can buy, that you can spray on your home to help, prevent the mildew and the mold from growing, and you can spray that once a year. So these are things that I do, but I do recommend, that every couple of years they do a home inspection, or at the very least every 5 years, do a home inspection. This way, if there's any other items that probably need attention that you're not aware of, they're going to know. And it's a good thing to do. And especially like you said, with the thermal imaging, if it's an older home, I mean, if you have some hot wires and you're not aware of that, I mean, how many homes a year catch on fire because of,
electrical issues?
Yeah. I mean,
we have this great photo from one of our thermal scans. It was of a teenage girl's room, and the room, it all looks fine. And then they scan the room and you can see this hot wire that's running up to where her wall from where her cell phone was plugged in. And it was a drywall nail that was touching the receptacle, like on the back wall. So, I mean, she had a fire hazard that was just waiting to happen. It's
yes. And you know what? Kids are the worst, because at my old house down the street, my neighbor's home caught on fire because their children, I guess, they didn't even realize their teenagers had bought from like the dollar store or whatever, these, what do you call plug extenders? Is that what you call them?
Yeah.
And they were not surge protectors. They were just a plug-in that had, additional outlets, because these kids have all of this, between their iPads, their laptops, their phones, their, AirPods, and everything else that they have. They're trying to plug in all of these things, and their house caught on fire.
Yeah, it's scary.
They determined that was the source. So, so parents, think about things like that. If you are explain to them how much a home inspection would cost, maybe on a preventative measure. Do you have different plans or different pricing structure, whether it's a regular home inspection versus a new home and a maybe general maintenance inspection?
So we can do different types of inspections, and it really depends on what the homeowner wants. And so if they want the full inspection, that's going to be the same price as a regular full-blown home inspection. And it will include everything that we do with the thermal scan, with the zip level to measure the foundation, with all of that. But if they just want a maintenance inspection, and we can do like what they do in Florida, which is called a 4-point inspection, which is going to be the 4 major components. Then that's going to depend on the square footage as well. But typically it's going to be about a couple $100 less than the average home inspection.
But I mean, isn't a couple $100 worth?
It's
still worth it. I mean, if you are, especially in something in the case that could maybe cause a fire or even a water leak. I mean, some people have their water heaters are in their attic, and if it goes out and busts and water goes down, so, and that can cause a lot of damage. I've known people who have gone out of town to come home, and their home was flooded inside of a water heater, and they've had to replace all kinds of things, and that could be extremely expensive, especially if you don't have a a homeowner's in policy that covers a lot of extras, and you really have to, that's a whole nother topic. But, you know, save yourself, spend a couple of $100s every couple of years, have a home inspection. And this just helps you maintain your value. I mean, your home is your biggest asset. I mean, it's, for most people, it's their biggest financial asset. Why not protect it by keeping up with it, maintaining it? I mean, every year you should pick a project on your home to do. And even if it's something as minor as, you know, just painting, power washing, you know, little things that don't cost you a lot. So I know right now, during hard times, some people may not have the extra money to do so, but it is important to like you had mentioned, a very good point. If you have a leak and you want to know exactly where it's coming from, you know, they should, you know, probably come out and ask, you know, call you or visit you on your website, and, you know, and schedule a thermal, you know, do an actual inspection, but do a thermal inspection. So you're knowing exactly where the source is coming from and what areas it's affecting. But also that, you know, prevents you or protects you from maybe being taken advantage of from, you know, other companies that are, you know.
It's an unbiased inspection. We're not selling anything, any other services. We're not repairing anything. So yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So, and so I think that's great. And I really, you know, I hope that more people start, you know, maybe think about, you know, doing that every, like I said, every couple of years or 5 years. It's just a really good thing to do. Again, you want to protect your investments. I mean, your home, you live in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think right now a lot of people are realizing, you know, that since we've had the stay-at-home order and we've been at home, a lot of people have been, you know, really proactive and, you know, going ahead and starting to take care of things. But really, you know, I've had a ton of clients that have called and just said, I didn't realize how much time has gone by and I really need to get these things done. So they're calling me, you know, and asking, you know, who I recommend for, you know, various different things. But, you know, and that's something that I am throwing out there. And I, you know, recommend having, you know, just having a general inspection. That way, if there's anything and they have the time right now to do it.
Absolutely.
Well, and in the meantime, in between your 5 years or however long it may be, we do provide these books to all of our buyers at the end of the inspection. So daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly tips on things to maintain. So, you know, changing filters and recaulking windows and what have you, that'll hopefully save them some headache, you know, and some costs later on.
Yes, those are great things. Yes, and I love that because, you know, little things like that, you know, you can do yourself. So is there, you know, any last minute things that you want to add about, you know, your service that you provide?
Yes, one service that we're doing now, and we're still working on the package, but with everything going on, again, we want to be able to reassure people as much as possible. And so we're offering an air purifying service. And so right now we have ozone machines, and that is good for multiple things. But one, it will purify, you know, inside the duct because we have the machine's running while the HVAC is running. But it'll get rid of odors. So if you have nasty pet odors, it will get rid of that. If you have smoke odor, it will get rid of that to a certain extent. But that's something that we decided that we wanted to offer with the home inspection. So we're still working on the package deal. We're also working on a different package where it would be a 3-point treatment. So with ozone, but then also we'd be spraying a chemical, and then we'd be spraying a probiotic inside the house. And so,
okay, that's awesome.
Yep. So we're getting the inspectors trained on that, and we're getting the equipment in, and we'll be announcing, you know, very soon when we're going to start doing that. And it would be an excellent service for sellers if they want to be proactive and get that done on their vacant houses, or for
especially those that have cats.
Exactly. So obviously you can't have any living thing in the house while this is happening. So no plants, no animals, nobody. But we have strict guidelines, and we're training everybody on how to follow them properly. So we really want to promote that for vacant properties. So it'd be excellent. As soon as your clients sign, their life away on all of that big stack of paperwork and they get the keys to the house, then they call us and we go in and we can treat essentially the house before they move in. And it gets rid of a bunch of things that are in the air.
Yep. And I'll tell you on a personal note, we actually just did my mom's house, and she was a heavy smoker for about 23 years in that home. And first day, you could notice just a huge difference in the amount of cigarette smoke that it pulled out. And so we're encouraged by what it's going to end up doing, for things like pet odors and mothballs or whatever's floating in there.
Right. Well, that's fantastic. That is so awesome. I love that, people are really, taking the initiative and, finding, whether it's not, creating new entrepreneurs right now because people are coming up with new ideas, or they're implementing new things into their businesses.
Correct.
So that's fantastic. So is that something that you already had in the works or were planning prior to COVID-19, or was that kind of spurred from?
That is pure. It's mind. It's pivoting. And so in this industry, we have to be able to pivot. So anybody running a business, look at what you've been doing, learning new, technologies, doing all these videos, and that's a form of pivot. And it's adapting to the market and figuring out, okay, how can I still make a living while helping everybody out? So for example, one of the pivot points that happened after Harvey is because we had the technology with thermal imaging. We were able to go in and we grew 225% for the month of September. When a lot of other
that's impressive.
Yeah. So when a lot of the home inspection companies actually went down because there were no home inspections to be done, everybody flooded. So we were able to shift just a little bit and just do thermal imaging. And so I was able to keep all my staff employed. I was able to send them out, help a lot of people out with their insurance companies, because there was this battle between the flood insurance and then the windstorm insurance, and they always throw it back at each other. So we were able to come out, do those scans, and actually prove, no, this was windstorm, or no, this was flood. And that helped a lot of people out. And so
duly noted. Hopefully we won't have to worry about that for a while. But that is fantastic. Yes, that it is. You do, and you're right. As far as pivoting, you do have to, evolve with the times. And right now we've all jumped through hoops.
Yep.
And it feels like 10 light years in technology, right? So that is great that you really have now implemented that. I love that. And I think some of the greatest inventions, greatest businesses have all started during, recession.
Yep, absolutely.
And you said it earlier, whenever we were talking before we went live, right now you're going to see and point out the leaders in any industry versus, the ones that are, laying in bed and, soaking up Netflix or whatever,
There's so much that can be done, even with the stay-at-home order, and in every industry. And I was on a call earlier last week with a bunch of students who want to become entrepreneurs. And so one lady, she started a home bakery, and while she was still going to college, and she was telling me that it's frustrating because she lost a lot of her income because nobody's ordering. And so we were able to kind of help her pivot just a little bit and go, well, why don't you contact the companies that are still open for work? And why don't you see if they would be interested in mass production of whatever she's baking? So obviously she would have to shift a few things at home, but that would allow her to keep the sales going, keep making money, pay for her college. And so that it's mindset. And so it's really hard for some people to have the right mindset of, all right, let's move forward. Yes, it's hard. Yes, we need to be ready to work twice as hard for half the money. And that's something that I told my entire staff. This is going to be hard. It's not going to be fun. We have to be ready to work 2 times harder and make half the money. because once we get over this hump, it's going to be an explosion, and the market is going to explode big time. And we want to be on the forefront of that.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I keep praying for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you are, giving back and helping other people. I'm a big proponent of helping others, obviously. And, I've kind of, my motto has been, let's root for each other and watch us all grow.
Absolutely.
Because, together, we're all in this together. Let's all succeed together.
Yes.
And, by partnering up and, I have another realtor that's going to do this with me. So it doesn't matter, what industry, I'm not a dog eat dog person. I really, truly want to help see other people succeed. And that includes my competition. So,
yes.
And it sounds like you're doing the same thing, which I think is absolutely wonderful. So real quick, before we wrap it up, I want to ask you, have you read any great books lately or watched a great movie that you would recommend?
You want to start, Cheyenne?
I did. I joined a book club with Houston and Veronica Weir. They're actually two other agents with Remax. Yes. So I'm reading 5+1, about halfway through. So it's pretty interesting with it. And then going back on a couple others, Will's sent me some books that I need to catch up on. And I'm rereading 7 Levels of Communication. And
I like that one. That was a good one.
It's good. And then I'm plugging into a lot of Buffini stuff right now, just some of his podcasts and things.
That's awesome. Love it. I love learning, so I'm addicted to learning.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. For me, they're a bunch. So I don't read because if I read, I fall asleep. So I do Audible. And so if I run or I work out or if I have quiet time, I can plug into my ears the Audible. I'm a very early riser, and a book that I didn't even know about, but really helped was The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I've met him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good book. The other one that was very helpful is The 12-Week Year. And it's essentially creating your 12-week calendar so that you know exactly what you need to do and you become a lot more productive than you would in a full year.
And I just read that one as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then now I'm going back and rereading something that I haven't read in a long time. I'm going back and reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes.
By Robert, Kiyosaki, however you say his name.
Yeah.
I enjoy listening to his podcast. He's interesting, very smart. But I also went back and picked up another old book just recently. And I was talking to one of my best friends last night about it. And that's The Power of Positive Thinking by, and if anyone doesn't know, Norman Vincent Peale. Mm-hmm. And Norman Vincent Peale, who is not only an author, but is also one of the pastor. And he is Trump's pastor and has been Trump's pastor for, I think, since I believe it was 1952 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he really helped shape, form, and mold him by implementing the power of positive thinking, which also uses biblical principles.
Yep.
Awesome.
Very cool.
So I just heard, it's been so many years, and I was raised by a mother who drilled that stuff in my head. She would go to the library and rent the VHS tapes and make me watch them. So, it's been a while since I've read those, but I definitely am going back through them just as a refresher because it is so important, y'all. No matter what is going on in the world around you, you can create the world in life that you want by thinking positive and picturing yourself, visualizing. There's a reason why they use vision boards. It's so you visualize where you're going to be so you can bring it into fruition because you do create your life. So
I agree.
Well, thank y'all so much. I appreciate your time and, educating us on, all things home inspections. And I love, all the products that you have out there. And I hope that everyone that is watching, will reach out to you and that other realtors will really start, to get on board with this, with the new plan or the new platform that you have out there. Give them the website again.
It's inspectedhouses.com.
Inspectedhouses.com, y'all. And if anybody needs inspections, I have put in the post all of their contact information, but I also had RedFish Inspections information here on the screen. And of course, if you need any additional information, you can call me, text me, message me. And if y'all know of anyone in the community that is a local business owner that would love free advertising, have them reach out to me. Again, we appreciate you watching. We want to create brand awareness and get all of these business owners as much as exposure as possible. So spread the word, spread the love, and keep it going.
We appreciate it. Thanks so much for having us.
You're welcome. Thanks, y'all. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.